So let's call the meeting to order of the Munster Parks and Recreation for February 2nd. First item is public. Is there anybody out there from the public? Do you know, Mark?
I didn't receive any emails. We do have Abigail Steffen attending, who is a high school student attending for her school class, but no comment from her.
Okay. All right. So with there being no public input, we'll close that portion of the meeting and move on to the administrative matters. First item are the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I looked at them, they looked okay to me.
Looked all right to me.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Next item are the vouchers. We have 3.
Right.
I reviewed them, didn't see any
Yep.
issues, so I motion to
Aye.
approve.
I got one question on the third one, I think it is. There's a charge on here from the school town for custodial fees.
Yes.
Are there activities going on there?
When we have activities at the schools that they will charge us. I'm not aware of that specific one. Jill's on the call. She may be able to answer that.
Yeah, I just wondered if we were doing anything at the schools since COVID.
We haven't really since the actually before this current school year would be the last time we did something. We did try to do some things outside, so that could have been on the, I'm not sure if we ended up having the football program out on their football field. I know that was one of the activities that we were attempting last fall, but I know registration was low, so I'm not sure if that's the one that was for.
Well, actually, now that I look at it, it says 2019 HOLID. Is that holiday? Maybe this is something.
Oh yeah, then that's the holiday craft show from 2019 fees. Yes, that is what that is. You're right.
Okay.
2019?
Yeah.
That's what it says.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that. Yeah, I see it.
Well, and I think and the reason I think that, go ahead, Jill. Jill's on the call. Oh, you're muted, Jill. I can't hear you. Or you're not muted, but I'm not hearing you. There. Nope, I'm not getting you. If you want to call him. But I think that what I was going to say is that I think the school city or school town, it's just not a normal thing where they're routinely billing frequently. So I think that it is that much of a delay from that show from the previous year. So that's where those fees do come through.
Okay.
School City's got a lot of money. Don't worry about it.
Well, they must, because they weren't asking for
Don't talk about who
2019.
has a lot of money, Mike. I mean, not Mike, Dan. Dan, don't talk about who has a lot of money. We'll leave that one alone. What's pedestrian bridge? Is that just repair? $11,000?
That is the design for the new bridge over the ditches, the Bridges Over Ditches project from Munster to Highland, the one that would connect at the east end of the Fisher Street Trail going into Highland.
Okay.
So the SCH is doing the design work for that. So all the work connected with that. There's also a big grant that's part of that, but that was the initial towards the design, construction, all that, the early on stages, that 11,000.
When do you think that'll be ready?
We're hoping within this next year that it's actually up and running if things go well. Yeah.
Sounds good.
And then I see Dave's is on here again for like $4,300. Stump removal. What's going on? Is he doing that work in the winter now?
Yeah, they will. I mean, that's the best time we prefer to pull them into the parks in the winter time, just so they don't leave ruts and things like that when the ground is frozen. So that is some of the work that they've been doing. That would be at, I did check after you made that comment last meeting, and it is only a couple of trees. Typically, it is about $1,000 a tree on average, but the stump removal is included in that. This was for additional trees that we did also have removed in some of the other locations.
Okay, are we kind of done with the tree work now, or is we gonna see more next year?
We currently, I believe we are all caught up on everything. And of course, we only use Dave's on those larger trees that do become the more expensive ones, you know, or when we use any outside service, the ones that our staff can't get to. Because if they're on the smaller scale, for instance, recently at Frank Hammond, we did some ourselves that they were able to take down internally. So that was something we were able to do ourselves. Sometimes if we take it down, and we will have a contractor do the stump grinding if it is a larger stump for us to remove as well.
Okay, that's all I had. Anybody else? If not, we need a motion.
I already motioned.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I abstain. It's going to the school district, so I'll abstain.
Okay. All right, so 4-0 with one abstention, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Items for discussion. Fertilization proposals.
Mr. President, your first one that I have today is for the 2021 park fertilization proposals. These are based upon areas that we fertilized in the past. We sought 3 different proposals from Forever Green, CNT Lawn and Landscape, and True Green. I'm sorry, those were the only 3 that we received proposals from. And we are, based upon the review from the staff, along with our past positive experiences from Forever Green, we are recommending awarding that work to Forever Green as the lowest proposal for the 2021 park fertilization services. This would be at a total cost of $20,267.55.
Yeah, quite a bit lower, actually. But anybody else have any questions or not?
Nope.
If not, we're gonna need, we need a
I'd
motion.
move that motion for Forever Green.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Next item is the Centennial Park Clubhouse update.
Mr. President, this is an update. I know we've briefly, I kind of have mentioned this in the last few meetings that this was something that I've been working on. And I guess I'm bringing it to you today, seeking some formal direction and approval. There's really 2 things that we're looking to do out at the Centennial Park Clubhouse, which is where I'm at the moment. The first project is the banquet room kitchen update. This is adding an additional hood to the kitchen that serves the banquet room. So the kitchen at the west end of the building. We have bought some additional equipment recently, including a deep fryer and a grill top. One of the things that I found out when I first started here was that for certain banquets, there was times where the chef was actually cooking in 2 different locations, which to me was just not a very efficient use of his talent and space and time to cook in both locations. By adding this kitchen hood, additional hood in the banquet room kitchen, this will allow all the cooking to be done in one room for when there's those larger scale banquets, which I think does make us a lot more efficient. So, and then the second one is a remodel of the view into a dedicated rental facility. So it would not be opened up as any longer as a day-to-day restaurant or cafe. Various reasons about this decline that I've mentioned, but obviously most recently the coronavirus pandemic, many rental options locally around Centennial Park. I don't know if you guys realize there's 15 other places to get food within a mile radius of Centennial Park. Many park users that are coming to Centennial now are coming here for fitness reasons, and they're healthier food consumers, which may not necessarily match with what we're kind of offering within our View restaurant. And then, of course, just, inconsistent hours have led to, inconsistent customers have led to inconsistent hours for us. And I know Bill and Andrew are on this call today. They've added to me that the longer we would stay open in the View, the more our expenses would go up. And so the more money we would lose, typically the longer hours that we were open with that type of facility. So with those things all in mind, and the fact that our banquet staff really does very well for the different types of banquets that we offer here at Centennial, and it's something that when they're planned out, we can accommodate them, we can prepare with staff and be ready for them. We really, the staff here really hits it out of the park when those things happen. And I think this just gives us another option to allow to have additional rental space. Potentially, I think eventually it will be simultaneous use. But I think that you can see just a simple, I've asked for them to do some early on projections that just a simple 2 rentals a week at $1,000 per rental, not including the cost of revenue from food, would bring in over $100,000. And you can see the last few years, we weren't close to $100,000 in revenue at all, the last 3 to 4 years that I listed there. So I think that this is really just a smart move on our behalf to go and make this change official. So what I'm asking for you today is your official recommendation to do those 2 following changes and direct me so we can actually seek the formal proposals for that work to get done. All the proposals that I put together at this point were done to give us the information so you could make an educated decision upon this and have a current kind of estimate before you. So taking that into account, I would ask for a recommendation for us to go ahead and make those 2 changes to the facilities and move forward with the necessary, seeking the necessary proposals so we can actually contract with those vendors that are necessary in the near future.
Mark, couple questions.
Yes.
This is Mike.
Yes.
First question is this the recommendation from Indigo for that facility? I guess my question is, have they looked at this and that's their recommendation for the facility? That's the question. So it's a 2-parter, I guess. And then the second part of my question is how does that affect, and I'm not a golfer, so I don't know, but for those golfers, Dave, Dan might have better insight to this. Is food expected to be available at places where you go and golf?
I think that at a 9-hole course, it's really not, unless it's a hot dog or something. I mean, I just don't see 9-holers wanting to have lunch in a restaurant, even 18-holers for that matter, unless it's a country club.
And it is something that we've talked to, I've talked to the staff along the way here, and Andrew and Bill are both on this call, and I'll let them add to it in a second here. But I think from their perspective, they are in favor of these changes. In fact, I think the initial idea came to me from them in regards to this. Secondarily, I think that there are a lot of other options in the area that people can get food. However, if the demand is there, I think that this change doesn't prohibit us from potentially opening up on the patio a hot dog station, or and having the availability where that's a way that we can have another revenue producer. I don't think that we've had a ton of business from that perspective, but I think that that's something that over time, that is something else that I know Chef has mentioned to me about having the capability where maybe we just open up something on a particular day of the week, but if the need is there, it does allow us to be able to handle that if we so choose to do that. Although I will add that having food prepared is one of those expenses that we absorb, and with the hope that someone comes and orders whatever those food items are. Because if not, that at the end of the day, a lot of times you're going to dispose of food that you could have sold otherwise. Andrew and Bill, do you have anything to add?
Start, Andrew, and then you can play the cleanup role. Agree totally with the proposed change to the room. It was a early on recommendation of ours. We saw that the view was not terribly well supported. Early on in our relationship, the view was actually staffed by a cook and a server all day long, 7 days a week. And we were seeing somewhere between 8 and 12 customers a day. They call them covers in the industry, losing a lot of money. We scaled that back to a one-person operation. Didn't really impact the service, but it's just never caught on. Golfers, aside from buying beer out of the pro shop, really have not historically shown any support for it, which is not surprising. It is a 9-hole golf course, and you're not there for that long. So, people, we're playing 18 holes and want to grab something at the turn. That's a bigger opportunity than in a 9-hole golf course where you finish and you leave. And, we do have a lot of league play. And if it makes sense, to your point, to put a grill out 2 nights a week for the leagues and work into their experience, some light F&B, we can do that. But the view has been previously used as an overflow banquet facility, and it's worked out really well. Obviously, the decor in that room is more a la carte. So revising the look of the room will, I think, drive the business, and it makes all the sense in the world.
Thank you.
So are you allowing, or you're going to allow outside food and beverage then to come onto the course then?
No, we sell beer and soft drinks out of the pro shop. We have a beverage cart. And if we want, we can provide some grab and go sandwiches out of the pro shop. To Mark's earlier point, we want to be careful there because you prepare the sandwiches and you put them out there for sale. They're only good for a limited amount of time. So we don't
I understand that, just like the hot dogs that are at the gas stations. I mean, they've probably been there for a long time. But realistically, if you don't have the capability to have food there on a regular basis, so I understand you're having 12, 14 customers, but those 12, 14 customers may be expecting it. So if they pick up McDonald's and they take it in their golf cart, that's a food and a beverage. So we have to expect to see, I would imagine people are going to start bringing, they probably already do, their own stuff out there. I know what you're saying in theory. Yes, we sell beer, but if someone's going to say, well, if I have to bring a sandwich, well, I might as well bring something to drink along with it. I mean, I don't think we have a big ranger system out there, do we?
The course is consistently rangered. We have not closely policed whether people bring non-alcoholic beverages or snacks onto the golf course. Alcoholic beverages are a different story. Our liquor license doesn't permit us to allow people to bring their own alcohol onto the golf course. So we do police that. It has not been a big problem. The 12 to 14 customers that we were seeing when the view was routinely open, they weren't golfers. They were park users on occasion. They were people who I think went there for the peace and quiet to have lunch because it was not a busy atmosphere. But we've not seen any significant support for the a la carte features of the club from the golfing public. Andrew's got more recent history with the club than I do. My experience was a year and a half ago, but I was there pretty consistently for 6 months covering the general manager position and just didn't see it. Andrew?
And I agree with you, Bill. We saw the same thing. And what happens is, because it's a 9-hole course, like was stated earlier, and where the course starts and ends, a lot of people don't come back to the clubhouse. It's not like where you have an 18 where everything starts and begins here at the clubhouse. The course is actually across the parking lot. So when people finish their rounds, they actually go to their cars and leave. They typically don't come in the clubhouse. Maybe one person will come in just to return the cart key, and that's about it. That's what I've been seeing over the last year or so.
Okay.
Does the cart, how often does the cart run? Because I played the course, more than a few times this year. Of course, I play Wicker too, but I've never seen a golf cart out there with somebody selling anything. How often is she out there? Or he? I didn't mean to be sexist about it.
It's basically on when we have busy days. And this year we've been kind of taking a very cautious approach. Well, last year rather, we took a very cautious approach because of COVID.
Okay.
But during normal times, we plan to be this year. hopefully, knock on wood, everything, we get back to more normalcy. We'll have the cart out there more on a regular basis.
Does the cart, will it sell candy bars and, chips,
Yes.
those kind of things?
Yes, small items like that, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't have any more questions. I guess the grill seems like something that maybe to consider. I think if you put the source of the food where the golfers can see it, the grill, then maybe they'd be incentivized to buy something. But the restaurant, they've got to, go on their own to even know that it's there. But the grill's standing there smelling it, who knows? That might get some people to buy something. So the other question I have, I guess, on this is, so are you talking about wanting a general contractor it seems to me for the view, that we'd need a general contractor for that, not just subs, and we act as the general, but, tell me why I'm wrong.
I think that we could handle it because I think they're pretty distinct, the different trades that are involved. For as far as the view remodel, one of the proposals I received was for basically a glass wall inside the barn doors. So the barn doors would stay. This would be a glass wall with some tint, similar to what's on the office currently in the Paulette's office on the glass side window or going into the pro shop there. The carpentry type of work would be mainly in regards to removing the old cabinetry, closing up the roll-up window, and then repairing the drywall that's behind those, not knowing how good or bad that shape is going to be once those items get taken out. The flooring is kind of a separate one, pulling out the existing tile, ceramic and carpeting that we have in there and putting in the type of flooring, the laminate that's in the banquet rooms that was just added to the banquet rooms a few years ago as well here. So those are pretty much the major ones. There's some minor electric. There's a couple outlets that have to be capped off. That used to be where the coffee pot would be plugged in, and some of the outlets that are near the counter location there within that room. There's some baseboard work that would happen. Again, that would all be part of the carpentry. So I think that overall, I could see where it could really go either way. I mean, we could go with it with a general and let them seek these various subs to them, or, we oversee that. But I think that on either one of these, it could be done either way. I think that that's something that I know Wendy had pointed out, that she was worried that we were splitting the bid and going with many different contractors. So I think that that's something that, I'll be talking with her later this week in regards to if you give me the green light to proceed with these projects, either one of these or both of these projects.
Yeah, well, especially with the view. I mean, it almost seems like a home remodeling job where you've got, like the wood shops of the world or Kratz Construction, those kind of guys. This seems to be the kind of right up their alleys, and they've got carpenters, their own carpenters, and some of their own tradesmen. They sub out some of it, but
Right.
That seems like something. They're the type of company that's out there that maybe at least ought to bid on it.
And I think you're right. I mean, we met initially with a Compton Construction that was out here that came out to give us some initial quotes, but the glass wall and the doors to enter into this area, we met with Lazaro, who's kind of in the business there, obviously of pretty well respected in that industry of doing that kind of almost a storefront look. It would almost duplicate the type of glass that's in the airlock as you enter into the building, just right behind the barn style doors as you go into the view.
I have another question, and it's,
Yes.
I don't mean to jump into the next topic, but part of the slides from the next topic that we have is from the 2020 year in review. One of the slides is food and beverage sales. Does that slide, is that encapsulate the banquet sales, or is that food and beverage not including banquet sales? Because it relates to this. I'm just kind of wondering, I'm sure in general the 2020 revenue is way down, but if you looked at the previous years, I'm just looking at the previous years.
It's banquet sales. The view sales were down to less than $50,000 a year.
Thank you.
course, we didn't have any concession revenue this year either, which is pretty significant in a typical year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If you do decide to move with either of these, I would ask that you make them, I guess, as two separate motions, because I did inform Wendy that even though I sent this to you as on one memo, I'm treating these, and I think that they can be done completely separately, and based upon your, desire, they could either be done as, like I said, individually, either one could occur, or they could both occur. But we would treat them as two separate projects. So if you could do it as two separate motions, if that's your desire, I would ask that.
All right, well, where'd you come up with the 51,000 for the view? I guess that's the one I'm most concerned about. It seems like that could be an expensive.
We are putting together various different, I have been meeting with various different companies here in the last probably month or so to try to give us a rough idea. But right now we're budgeting $10,000 for the carpentry work of it, $18,000 for the full glass wall behind the behind the barn doors, $5,000 for painting, $10,800 for the flooring, $500 for electrical updates, and about $2,000 for the tint and the covering on the windows for the glass walls, so we can limit, we can let light through, but you won't be able to see in through that glass wall, as I'm calling that. That comes out to about $46,000 and change, and I've added on 10% as a contingency, which gets us to that roughly that $51,000, which is the budget that I was throwing at this.
Okay. Anybody else? So we need a motion. I guess let's do the hood work first.
I'll make a motion for the ventilation hood not to exceed 35,000.
I'll second it.
Okay, been seconded by Robin. All in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. All right, let's move on to the view.
I'm undecided.
Me too.
Yeah. I know it seems like a lot of money, and I don't know that. I mean, we got 3 spaces. Now we're going to have 4. I don't see how they're all going to be filled.
Well, that, and I know that the town has a lot invested in the way that does the council, are they going to have a say, and are they going to have an opinion on removing this feature? Like, because this is what they planned. This was part of the plan.
Here's my motion would be to table it until we speak with some more people, and we could take it up in our mid-February meeting. That way we can all feel a little bit more comfortable about it. Because I'm with Mike. I think there's some other people out there that may have some different opinions on how this looks or how should it look that have appointed us. And I'd like to talk to them personally. I should have probably talked to them before this meeting. Unfortunately, I had some other things happening that I didn't reach out to them. And so that's on me.
And there's no rush to again, I'm bringing it to you for your consideration. I mean, if you want to table it, we can table it. I think that it is one that overall that I guess I defer back to is if we're looking to bring in as much revenue out here as possible, this is really the best way to be able to do that through these banquets. We're seeing that in the large scale banquets, and just to give you some of that background, when this building was initially constructed, it really wasn't thought of a lot of wedding receptions here. It was more going to be the Lions Club's meetings and things like that locally within the community. So obviously things and times change, but that's really what the big push is.
What?
But that's what the staff told me from back then. So I'm just repeating.
No, I was on the board back then, and we definitely thought of weddings, and part of it was to have the weddings at place on Ridge Road there. They get married there, and they come to the. I mean, the weddings was part of the deal for sure.
Yeah, and the issue I guess I have with it is that I've always been told that Centennials was planned to be the destination park, like the place where you would go and you could spend a whole day, and that might include. And this is obviously it's changed with Centennial Village and all of those things. So I guess I just want to make sure that we're hearing from everybody as far as the plan for that area and should we have this available or not. And COVID has thrown everything out of whack anyway. I mean, it's.
But Mike,
I
you're
would
right
just-
about, it's being a destination park.
Yeah.
But did we find ourselves to be short on to lease out any of the other areas? I wish we would have had another space. I don't think we were running short on leasing the area, just to add another space to maybe lease out. I mean, I don't know.
The challenge we've had is accommodating smaller groups. So we have that nice, beautiful, large room, and we would certainly not want to reduce the capacity of that room and turn away a large event because we accommodated a small one. And to Mark's earlier point, there's the potential to run these two areas simultaneous. Obviously, with the pocket walls, we
Okay.
provide the large room on days when it's not peak demand. But when you're talking wedding season, quinceañera season, the peak times are always going to be gobbled up by the big events. This gives the facility a venue for the smaller events. And we've actually a couple of smaller wedding receptions in the view already because we had it open and the party was small and they didn't want, we couldn't let them have the big room anyway, but they didn't want all this.
What is the capacity over there in that?
I don't know what
Roughly.
the revised capacity is, roughly 50.
50.
But when there's a wedding, when you need no partitions, well, that's like Saturday night or Friday night. Are there really, showers or anything else going on Saturday night? It seems to me that those two kind of things aren't going to be going on at the same time. A small thing.
Well, I think, Dave,
wedding.
the big wedding, you have to prepare, set that up where you could have something at the view going on while they're preparing the big room for that evening's wedding or whatever. They don't have to, rent one part of it out. I'm
And
just
that's
throwing that
true.
out there. That could be a possibility.
Well, that is true because a lot of the larger weddings that we do have, they come in and they set that up the day before. So that basically eliminates any other use of that, basically 2 days in a row.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
I think the smaller room also allows for a reduced price point for some of the rentals that we have. There's a price point that's set for the large scale rooms that, will not be the same level of what we would charge for the view being a smaller space. So when we were talking earlier, and these are numbers that Paulette shared with me, $1,000 would be the rental there. We charge, much more than that for the larger banquet room here in the building.
How much use is the social center getting in terms of rentals now?
We get calls constantly about it. It's obviously due to COVID, we're restricted with the amount of people, but typically most weekends we're booked. I mean, Saturday, Sundays, people are looking for those indoor, what I'm going to call the glorious park shelter, where you have indoor plumbing and you have heating and air conditioning. So, where you have the comforts of home. It's the kind of party you would have in your house, but most people don't have enough space to fit 50 to 100 people in. And the social center accommodates that for us. And I think that the idea about changing this, dedicating this room of the view into something like that also allows for something similar to give the staff out here at Centennial another resource to bring in additional revenue.
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing is maybe we ought to table it for at least a few weeks. Is everybody okay with that, or
Yeah.
I could be
Yeah.
talked out of it? So that'll be our plan. Let's put it on the agenda for next week. I mean, next 2 weeks from now.
Right.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have the year in review presentation.
I'm going to turn it over to Andrew and try and let him share his screen if you can, Andrew.
Can you see the screen?
I love those golf aerial views.
No,
No,
I can't. Where do I go to do that?
No, you didn't share it yet, Andrew.
Okay. Here we are. Can you see it now?
yes.
Yeah.
And now you want to start the presentation from the beginning.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
All right, Bill, I'll let you start out.
Okay, I'm just going to kick us off. First of all, I want to thank everyone for allowing us this opportunity to look back on 2020, which was certainly a different year for all of us. Had really significant impacts on the golf industry, on the event business. Andrew will walk through all the details of the year in review of Centennial Park. But if you go to the next slide, Andrew, I wanted to just kick it off with a discussion of 2020 wasn't interesting enough, so we went through as a company a couple of different changes, just to keep it interesting. First, initiated early in the year in 2020 and culminated in the midsummer, our name, previously Billy Casper Golf, was changed to Indigo Golf Partners. And that change came about because, as anyone who was familiar with Billy's career, Billy passed away 5 years ago. And we had continued the license agreement with his family for those 5 years. But as happens in business from time to time, the parties were unable to come together on what the renewal of that license agreement should look like. And it was decided by our executive team that we would just go in a different direction. So the name Indigo Golf Partners was adopted mid-season. And then just in November, we were made aware of a pending transaction that would have Indigo Golf Partners acquired by Troon, which did happen on December 31st. Troon is the largest operator of golf facilities in the world. Indigo Golf Partners is the largest operator domestically of golf courses. So the merger of the two companies creates by far the largest presence in the golf management space. And it brings with it some really good things for our clients and for Troon's clients. We bring to the table as Indigo Golf Partners a very sophisticated platform for managing smaller operations. Troon, as a management company that primarily handles resorts and high-end private clubs, brings a lot of resources in terms of food and beverage consulting, golf course construction, in-house resources, certainly a brand image that is somewhat apart from the brand image that we've typically portrayed. But the question probably most on your mind is, what does this mean for Centennial Park? How are things going to change? And the answer is they aren't going to change very much. Troon intends to continue to operate Indigo Golf Partners as a subsidiary of Troon Golf, specializing in the management and operation of affordable public access facilities and private clubs, whereas Troon will continue to operate in their historical niche. We will share resources, we will share best practices, and at some point, previously acquired public golf companies will roll up into the Indigo platform. But at Centennial Park, like it or not, Andrew's going to continue to be the regional manager, and I'm going to continue to be his direct report, and we're going to continue to answer to the same people, and we're going to continue to support Centennial Park to the best of our ability. I consider it a very good thing for everyone involved. I'm looking forward to the new perspective that Troon can bring to the table, and certainly the resources. Andrew, with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, now we'll get into the performance of Centennial Park in 2020. As you see in the first slide here is the revenue performance. Because Centennial is highly contingent on the performance of banquets at the facility. As we always say, Centennial Park is a banquet facility that has a golf course. So with banquets being down, revenue this year dropped 33%. In 2019, we did $1.1 million in revenue. This year, we were down to a little over $745,000. And that was COVID-19 took a toll on our banquet and wedding activities, which is reflective in our thing. As you see, the previous years, we were on our upward trend, and COVID-19 kind of derailed us a little bit, but we're really happy with the outlook that we see for going forward into 2021 and beyond. And the same thing is evidence in our bottom line performance. The trend was where our bottom line was, moving in a very positive direction, and COVID-19 hit in 2020 and saw our bottom line performance drop with our EBITDA numbers. Moving ahead to food and beverage sales, which was really affected by the banquets. As you can see, food and beverage was down 60% from 2019, where we did $768,000 in sales in revenue in 2019, dropping down to over $345,000 in 2020. Direct correlation with COVID-19, and I think as we move forward, we expect a rebound this year hopefully we can get to more normal situations. But COVID definitely had an impact on our food and beverage sales, which is the primary revenue driver at Centennial Park. Moving on to a bright spot, where COVID-19 had a very adverse impact on our food and beverage sales. Golf continued its trend on its upward trend. As you see, dating back to 2017, the rounds of golf continued on an upward trend. We got an additional boost this year from COVID-19, but it's just, as you see, we were continuing to expand every year. Golf rounds were up 19%, where we did over 23,000 rounds, up from over 19,000 rounds in 2019. Same thing with golf revenue. We saw a 23% increase in revenue on the golf side, which continued our trend upwards. Golf overall all over the country saw a big uptick in 2020. It was determined as a very safe and an outdoor activity that people felt comfortable doing, and we expect that to continue in 2021, as you can see by the amount of rounds that we have played. And that was the same thing that we saw on the driving range. People were looking for activities they could do outside where they could social distance and have enjoyment, and that was definitely reflected in our golf revenue. Moving to the banquet side. Banquet sales took a hit this year. We were on a steadily upward climb in banquet sales, but because of COVID-19, as you can see, in 2020, we did banquet sales of $335,000. That's down from $694,000 the prior year.
Andrew, I did want to throw in a point.
Yes.
Believe it or not, that $335,000 in 2020 led all of Indigo Golf Partners properties. We have facilities that in typical years will do $1.5 million to $2 million in banquet sales. They finished behind Centennial Park. So as meager as that graph looks compared to prior year, and certainly compared to our expectations coming into this year, that performance was pretty solid. And it was a lot of little one-off and two-off events. It was a lot of hard work by Paulette and the sales team, accommodating events with the restrictions. A lot of business got moved from 2020 into other years, but I guess we're the world's tallest, short person, but 335,000 was number one in the company this year.
Yes.
Is that all inside? Revenue from inside? I mean, there weren't outings outside.
No, we didn't have any golf outings, but we had smaller weddings out in the pavilions, but most of all of that were here inside when we were allowed to, we got into the summertime, we were allowed to have banquets, really picked up. And we picked up a lot of business when Illinois was completely shut down. Centennial Park became a very destination where a lot of people came, and I think the word is out, and I think we expect that to continue moving forward. Most of the people, when we had weddings or events, I'd be sitting up at the front, and you talk to people, and the first thing they would say, I had no idea this place was here. Passed on Calumet, and it was the same thing we saw with golfers as well. They didn't know the facility was here, and I think we have really jumped up, and that's the same thing we see on golf with the amount of memberships. We picked up a lot of new members going into 2021, and golf rounds are up, so people are going to come back because they've discovered this beautiful location that's here, right here in Munster. And moving back to sales activity, the lead volume in 2020 was the leads that we had for potential banquets and wedding were a little over 1,300 in 2020. That's down from 2019, but that kind of correlates the amount of the limitations that we had to deal with. That really gives a lot of credit to Paulette and the sales staff for being able to generate as much as they did under the restrictions that we were under. Like now, we finally went back to orange, so now we can do activities for 50 people, where just the week we were bouncing back and forth being red in Lake County where we could only do 25. So Paulette's working hard to bring in these smaller events here at Centennial that people love the venue. On the concession side, as you can see, don't have a financial, we didn't have anything basically to the report. The pool did get started and we did very small revenue on the pool side. Really didn't have any revenue on the concessions at the ball fields. We saw more people that did come out were not exactly looking to purchase food, particularly cooked food from our concessions. So we look forward to getting back to some normalcy, because that was, we just saw people did come out, but they were not spending money at the concessions, at the ball fields or at the pools. On the marketing side, one thing that we concentrated on this year was bringing out communication about COVID to let people know what the tasks that we were doing, the protocols that we had in place, to let them know that there was a safe environment to come out. And a lot of the emails were dealing with about the openings, the FAQs about safety standards that we had. The website was, had all of these things on there so people can see what we were doing to be safe. We had social posts talking about the same thing. And one thing that we're very proud of, despite the pandemic going across the country and the world, we did not have any cases of COVID based on our protocols from anything happened work-related here at Centennial Park. So, and particularly with the amount of banquets we did, there were no cases that could be traced back to anything that was happening here at Centennial Park.
Region-wide in the Chicagoland Midwest region, we employ over 700 employees, and we had 7 known cases of COVID. None of them came from the workplace. We know that all 7 of those people got infected at family events. So it's a really good endorsement of the protocols that we put in place, which are very common for retail establishments. You know, we didn't invent the wheel, but the adherence that the staff took to insistence on masks, the sanitation protocols, we feel most proud of that outcome in 2020. It was a big concern and the team shined.
2020 sales on the banquet side, we had, like I say, we had a little over $335,000 in banquet business for 2020. Initial total cancellations in 2020, we had over $268,000 in banquets that were canceled. Of that total revenue that did not reschedule, that was little over $161,000. We had total revenue that was rescheduled into 2020 at $6,084. Total, we had revenue that was rescheduled into those events that canceled, that rescheduled into 2021 was $104,157. And we actually have, we have an event that's rescheduled out into 2022 for 1320. And as Bill mentioned, this is the Centennial Parks banquet, was the highest banquet revenue of all Indigo golf properties in 2020. And campaigns that we put out later in the year centered around the safety of hosting events. As you can see from this on the slide here, we were advertising "Make your home away from home." You know, it just gives you an opportunity to have a family gathering of 20, 30 people, you know, here where you couldn't have those at home. We could do it in a safe manner to give people confidence and ability to still be able to have a family function.
Add to that impact, in a typical year, Paulette will book and execute somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 a year in what we call pop-up events, stuff that wasn't planned out in the prior year or booked in the prior year. And we got virtually none of that in 2020. So the impact was quite a bit more.
Yes. And looking at our sales looking forward into 2021, we've already have business booked for 2021, $455,088 already on the books that are reserved for 2021. We've got over $55,000 in, we call it in the pipeline. Those are people that Paulette is working with right now that we hope to close those events. So we're looking at, if you get those closed, you're talking about over $500,000, and we just finished January. So we're looking good to have a rebound in 2021. One of the focuses that we're going to be looking at on the banquet side, we're going to be really looking at doing more meetings and weekday events, memorial services, and doing community outreach to fill open dates. We're actually working with all the local funeral homes to do memorial services that, you know, they can't do things, do their repasses, celebration of lives here at Centennial Park. So we're really trying to work with the companies as well as the funeral homes just to do their meetings and celebrations of life here at Centennial as a destination spot for them. Some of the things that we've done, we've created a new website, which you can see we updated the new pictures, modern professional look. It's improved ADA compliance. We've improved the destination landing pages for better tracking of data, upgraded imagery and presentation of such imagery, which you see on the pictures. We've got enhanced video functionality. We do breaking news bar to put announcements out, improve photo gallery options, expansive and professional footers, expanded social icon availability, noticeability of booking, call to action on top navigation. We have a weather widget, a search bar for better navigation. We just really redone the website to make it very user-friendly and give a lot of information to them. Here are the course photography that we had a photographer come out with a drone to get better images of the course from an aerial view, which really shows the beauty of the course here at Centennial Park. And have as a planning strategy what we call the revenue playbook. And what we do is we plan out all of 2021 with marketing tasks, activity, strategy, and more. And this is what is brought out with the staff here to really lay out a plan for what we plan to accomplish our focus points that we have in 2021. The calendar features assigns, it'll user task. All the activity is mapped out on the calendar. It's easily printable to show activity and report on campaign metrics. And the completion of goal for the end, the completion of this was have the goal for the end of February. And now on the agronomy side, Dan Ogdahl is here and he's going to talk about some of the course improvements and things that we had here at Centennial.
Yeah, I'll just kind of give you a summary of what we've done over the year. Some of this is capital that you guys approved. As you can see, we did some cart path work on these two pictures. All three bridges were fixed. You see that black line there? That was, there was a couple inch gap. It was a tripping hazard. It was also a hazard for our machines banging on the bed knives and things. That was hired out on a bid. Some of the in-house stuff on the right is some drain work that we did. We're having a lot of trouble over on hole 6, and that was a line that was fixed. The black tile was fixed. It was making a wet spot, so that helped that area. And then we added some stairs from over on 8T. That's those 4 steps over there. I didn't have a better finished product, but it looks really nice. That was done by Lalo, our mechanic, a pretty handy guy with that. The next picture, some more of your capital items were the irrigation box. We have 9 irrigation boxes on the golf course, and you've purchased 3 of them for us over the last couple of years. Why we're having to replace them is the old models are out of date. You can't buy parts for them. So as they fail, we'll save the old ones and use pieces if we can. But in the future, the long term would be to get them all replaced, updated, and that way, we could catch up with the rest of the industry, and I could run the sprinkler system from my phone, which would save a lot of time. Say when I fertilize, I can water it as I go from my phone. So the other picture is the bank mower that you guys purchased for us. That happened in the middle of the summer. The old machine, the engine blew, and it was more to fix it than it was to then the machine was actually worse. So this was on the list the last couple of years, and so it ended up being replaced. Some of the other things, what we did all of the aerifying other than the greens in-house. That's the bottom left picture. I just had a picture of the Steiners, the red machine. That was a purchase a couple of years ago. Just Lalo does his maintenance right now, oil changes, sharpening blades, that kind of thing. COVID brought April with no golf. So that's our chef in the corner helping out. We pushed up the bunkers and raked them. He mowed tees, or he mowed greens, and we had the pro out there greens on a regular basis. So we utilized staff that was already here that was salary. So I didn't have any extra people until golf started up. We were out 5-6 weeks, and you mentioned the 23,000 rounds. That we probably lost at least 2,000 rounds there. So it just shows you how busy it was. I want to mention that because of COVID, we've had to change things, and it's impacted my crew because, for example, everything's no touch. So like filling divots has now become a huge issue because we have to do it in-house. We can't even have a divot box out on the golf course. So it's just more intensive for us. So anytime I can get help from anybody, that's awesome. I don't know if you have any more pictures. That's it. Other than that, just the increased play has led to different things like I had to purchase more seed. It's incredible the range. I don't know yet a number on that. It was up probably 40%. I had to buy a lot of seed because it was obliterated week after week. A lot of people found us as a destination range. People are coming from Illinois to play our golf course and hit off our driving range. So that's about what I have today.
Dan, I want to just comment, and I'm sure some on the call have heard this before, but we measure our customer satisfaction at all of our golf courses through Net Promoter Score. And the way that works is we gather email addresses, and if you play the golf course in any given month, whether you play it once or you play it every day that month, you're going to get a survey one time that month and one time only. And on a scale of 1 to 10, it asks you a simple question: how likely are you to recommend Centennial Park to a friend? And if you're a 9 or a 10, you're a promoter. If you're a 7 or an 8, you're neutral. And if you're below 7, you're what's known as a detractor. And to get Net Promoter Score, we take the percentage of people who are promoters and we subtract the percentage of people who are detractors. And Centennial Park ran north of 50% Net Promoter Score in 2020 under these adverse conditions. It's one of the highest in the company. The feedback, we had a lot of attraction. Obviously people from Illinois were looking for places to play for a good part of the early summer and experienced Centennial Park for the first time, and the feedback was just off the charts. So kudos to you, Dan, and the team. Really, really well done this year.
And we'll open it up for questions. And Mark, I will stop sharing the screen and return it back to you.
Sure.
Here we are.
Job well done. It looks fantastic under the circumstances that we had to deal with this year. And just great job.
Yeah, I agree. COVID was a terrible thing, but in a way it helped our golf course and probably will help it in the future by making us known to people. And I'm very also, the fact that nobody got sick for many of the functions is really amazing too. Kind of justifies why maybe some restaurants in some other states should be opening up a little bit more. But anyway, yeah, I think that's great. I'm not surprised the numbers were down in terms of food and banquets. I mean, I was surprised actually that they were as high as they were. Well, anybody else? If not, thank you guys. I appreciate everybody's input.
And we thank you all for having trust in us to be able to manage the facility. It is definitely a pleasure for all of us here. Got a great staff here that really are engaged in making Centennial Park the best that it can be.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think that brings us to the end. Anything else, Mark?
Nope, I will just point out the next meeting is Tuesday, February 16th at 5 p.m.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. For
Aye.
all those who are still left. Okay,
I'm
thanks
here.
again, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
It was a good
Okay,
meeting.
bye.